All right. Hello, everybody. It's Michelle Maher here, and I'm here today with Gina Hatzis. Gina, thank you so much for giving me your time. It's great to have this chat with you, have this time to have a little chat about what is going on in this crazy world right now. So, Gina, if you can just let us know a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Michelle, for having me, for creating this platform. I think it's so important. I love all the creativity and all the people stepping up. So I appreciate the invitation. So who I am, it's always funny when people ask me that, because I find it so bizarre that our go-to is our professional bio. Um, I am a woman on a mission. I think I came out of the womb on a mission, and my intention has always been to connect the dots and put pieces together, first for myself and then for other people. So the way that shows up for me professionally is I was a CP24 journalist for a few years, and I left that, and I ultimately fell into public speaking. I've been a speaker for 26 years now, both corporately and publicly. So on the corporate side, it's conscious communication and interaction and leadership. And on the public side, it's always been me on my own spiritual journey, trying to put the pieces together and then creating platforms to share what I've learned. So it's always been me first, and then, oh my God, I got to tell you guys about it. Me first, and I've got to tell you guys about it. And it was never precipitated. It was never something that was intentional. That was always just my passion. My real work was my corporate work. And so that went on for many, many years and evolved to the point where 2 years ago, I was invited to a local speaking competition here in Toronto. And for the first time, and at that time it was 24 years, I wrote a speech that was not for anyone else, that was just for myself. And I didn't know what the event was and who would see it. I just really felt compelled to write a speech for me and how I was feeling. I went through and I wrote a speech called The Too Much Woman. And it ended up getting shown on social media and went viral, and then viral again, and then uber viral, now to 40 million. And it actually just has shifted the trajectory of my life and just made everything really clear for me. So that's who I am in a nutshell. I'm also a mom. I have 2 teenage kids that I'm journeying through this interesting time with at home. And let's start there. That's who I am. That's who I am.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thank you, Gina. And I've been fortunate to have seen you perform your speech in person, and that was great. That was, I think, the first time we met actually in person, when you were doing it at a hub event. Um, so yeah, this crazy time that we're in now, it's something that seems to we spent the weekend together at the retreat, Fire and Grace. It was like the end of February, right? Yeah, end of
Yeah,
February,
yeah,
which seems right now like a lifetime ago.
it sure
It just
does.
seems so long ago.
It
And
sure.
then that, I guess that was the end of February, then the beginning of March, then March came and everything was kind of okay. And then I guess it was the second week of March that everything kind of went,
Yeah.
and then events were being canceled and everything. And it's just hard to believe how much everything would change in a single day. And it became, I know for myself, I kind of lost what day it was. It was
Mm,
just the
mm,
concept of days just went away, because it felt like it was months, because some things changed it so much in one day, right?
yeah, we're out of our
Uh,
routine for sure. For
oh
sure.
yeah, for sure. And as you say, being a mom and having the kids at home, where it was perhaps, March break was, like, everybody knew March break was going to happen, but then the 2 weeks after it was announced, and now that
Yeah.
April 6th has gone down the drain, and we don't know how long it's going to be. So
Yeah.
I know for myself, my daughter's 17, and she has a really hard time with not being able to go see her friends.
Mm, mm,
And just this whole, of course, like, it's hard, right?
yeah.
How do we navigate through this? And we don't want to make them fearful, but yeah, we don't know. This is all new
Yeah.
territory for ourselves.
Yeah. You raised so many really important point. So I just kind of want to circle back and peel
Sure. Yeah.
the onion back a little bit, because I'm fascinated that I feel like for so many of us, I think for each one of us in some way, it's like our whole lives have been preparing us for this moment. And I know for sure for myself, when I'm looking at this little microcosm, it's like a little experiment in a petri dish. Like, what happens if the actual whole world does pause and we actually have to really come back to ourselves and what's important? I mean, we talk about this in theory all the time, like what's important, what's your priority, family is the most important, health is the most important. But then when it comes to the moment where we're all paused, literally, and we're all isolated, and there's not a lot of us for us to do, um, everything really comes to the surface. And I remember, just kind of side note, going on a 3-day juicing retreat. This was years ago, where I went up to a cabin in Northern Ontario. It was like isolated. It was in the winter too, so couldn't really get out much. It was really cold. And the juicing retreat was intended to be for my body. I thought it was like a way to cleanse my body, blah, blah, blah. But what
Right.
happens is when you are confined to a space and you literally don't have the distraction of work and busyness and things and thoughts, it wasn't just my body that was cleansed. It felt like my whole mind, body, mind, and soul was being cleansed. And that's what it feels like is going on right now. So when that happens,
Right.
and whether we're doing I don't know if your listeners have ever done a physical cleanse before. I've done a few. But the same things happen. So at first, what happens is you go into this like shock mode, like, oh my God, I can't have coffee. Like I can't do this, I can't do that. And we kind of go into this shock mode, and our body responds, right? With a lot of resistance, and we call it flight or fight. There's also freeze. I think a lot of people right now are in freeze mode, where we're in like this state of analysis paralysis. We can't even make basic decisions because we're so scared. So that's
Right.
normal. So the first thing we do is we kind of go, holy shit, what's going on? And then the second thing that happens is we are feeling feelings that are unfamiliar to us, that maybe we've held down for a long time. And a lot of stuff is bubbling up. I mean, think about us being in our homes with our families 24/7. That's tough for a lot of people. I'm actually an introvert. So I'm at home with 2 teenage kids, and I love my kids, and they're at an age where they can keep themselves busy and everything.
Yeah.
It's hard, like the energy, just holding the energy and trying to remain, cautiously optimistic, and have some sort of natural rhythm, and not, as you say, freak out your kids. And so let's just acknowledge that this is a very unique time. So I think the very next step, once we realize that we're in this state of analysis paralysis, is to acknowledge how we feel and acknowledge one another. This is such a basic concept, but it's so important. So acknowledgement means I hear you, I feel you. It's really important to ask each other how we're doing. And especially as a parent, or especially as a caregiver, I know there's a lot of empaths and really caring people coming out of the woodwork. Our natural instinct is to want to pacify, to make people feel better. But the best thing really to do is just to listen and use like passive listening. I'm asking my kids, like, how are you feeling? Well, I'm frustrated. Like, all my friends are at the park. Why can't I go? Or, it sucks that we got gypped of, spring break. Or, would you meet, like, my daughter's in grade 8. She may not have a grade 8 graduation. And really just to hold the space for her to share how she's feeling, not to tell her it's going to be okay, not to explain it, not to try to make up for it in other ways, but just to hold the space and acknowledge how everyone's feeling. It's really good to just ask and then zip it. I just use a really simple, like, listening is a skill, Michelle. I actually teach a half-day course corporately on how to listen. Like,
Yeah, because people don't know. People don't know how to listen.
right. We think because we can hear, we can listen, but listening is a skill. So for me, because I tend to be quite, let's call it aggressive, or with my kids, especially, what I've learned to do is I ask them a question, and then I literally take water or coffee or something, and I ask, and then right, like sometimes I have to
Right.
take like 2 sips, 3 sips, because there's a pause, there's a pregnant pause. And rather than be like, staring, I want to create space where people feel like it's okay. And then I don't, tell them it's going to be okay even right away, or don't worry about it, or this is going to pass, or maybe in a week or a month, or why don't you? I just
Right.
hold the space for them and I just let them say, and I think it's really important that we do that for ourselves. So, Rena, you came to
Yes.
our
Yep.
retreat. Rena and I have a practice, which is actually, I never thought about it until recently how valuable it was, but we are friends on WhatsApp. And what we do is we don't have daily phone calls. In fact, we never call each other on the phone ever, ever.
Right.
But we have a practice where we leave voice messages for one another. And the voice messages are often self-reflection. It's kind of like a journal. And so I'll say to her, oh God, today was really brutal. It started off okay. I got up and made breakfast. And then, I heard something about a friend's kid who has and it's like an audio journal. And
Right.
just being able to express it. And then in her time, like there's no urgency, but in her time, she shares something with me, and it's just a way that I can get up and out, get the stuff up and out. Journaling's another way. um,
Right.
I know I'm
Yes.
rambling,
Yes.
but there's so many skills
No,
that
it's,
are so crucial. Like
yeah.
it everything's energy. So let's just say this: emotions are energy in motion. They are that. Emotion is energy in motion. And so we often make the mistake of, when we're feeling something, identifying with the feeling. So we say, I am sad, I am depressed, I am
Right.
anxious, which is actually not correct. You are not that thing. It's more accurate to say, I'm feeling sad,
Feeling.
I'm feeling anxious, because then we can acknowledge, and words are important, right? We can acknowledge that how we are feeling is an emotion, it's an energy in motion, and we are a conduit for that feeling, meaning it's meant to come to us, to be felt, and then to pass through. And the only way it passes through is if it's acknowledged and expressed. And so I think this is a really
Right.
important piece, because I know that there's a lot of people in your community, because we have a lot of cross community,
Yep.
who are saying things like, I was doing really well until, and then, right? And then I fell apart, or I was crying, or and I
Yep.
think it's really important to hold space. And I can tell you how I do it, but hold space for how we're feeling and not just override that.
Right. Yeah. You have to acknowledge it, and acknowledge how you're feeling and not suppress it. You have to actually, like, I have heard that before, feel the feeling and let it go through,
Yeah.
acknowledge it, but let it go through you.
And if we
Um,
don't do that, the energy, because it's literally energy. Like, try to
yes.
imagine sadness is energy. Those cartoons where you have a thought bubble and there's like a scribble, like that's
Yeah.
actually a feeling. And that feeling, if it gets lodged, so for example, my whole life I had a sore throat, chronic sore throat infections, back to back to back. And what I understand to be true, and maybe some of your community will be into this or not, but what I believe to be true is that what I was holding was my tongue. I was biting my tongue. I wasn't speaking my truth. I was always saying what people wanted me to say. I was hiding a lot of secrets. And that was stuck in
In
my
your throat.
throat chakra, literally.
Yes.
And it wasn't until my mid 30s when I started to speak truths, and it doesn't have to be to the world, could be to a journal, could be to a therapist, could be to a friend, that I had never acknowledged. I haven't had a sore throat since. And I know to be true is because I have given space for that emotion. So if you follow Louise Hay, if anybody's interested, our emotions get lodged in different body parts for a reason. And so all this to say, it's important to hold space for your emotions. So here's what I do. I'll give you a little tip, because
Sure.
in this
Yeah.
time of unprecedented, I don't want to say chaos, because the language we use is important, but these are unprecedented times, uncharted waters.
Yes.
It's normal to have lots of feelings. So I go through, and if you watch me on Facebook or Instagram, my stories, like I go from like dancing to like crying in the bath to like cooking to sing, like I'm running the whole gamut. Like, and that's normal. That's normal. Um, I have a process, because for years what I used to say to myself is, I can't cry. I just can't cry. I just can't cry. But that wasn't true. What was true was I was afraid to face my feeling, to allow myself to go there. Because I thought, if I start to cry or if I get angry, I'll never be able to stop. I remember a Reiki master saying to me, when was the last time you really let yourself be angry? Like I had so much anger in me and resent, and I had never expressed it. So I create a space for myself every day to to let whatever needs to come out happen. And for me, the way it happens is it's actually a way, we say honor our feelings for a reason. I honor my feelings by, personally, I take a bath every day. You don't have a bath, you can do a shower, you can even just lie in your bed. I light candles, because the ritual of it is very important, because you're sending a message to yourself that this is my time. I make sure that the kids are settled or doing something. So it's a
Yeah.
time when they're not going to barge in on me. I play music. Music's such an important component for me, because music is an invitation for the body, not the mind, but the body, to get into a state. So the music, it's not happy music necessarily, it's whatever I'm feeling. So lately I'm listening to a lot of old nostalgic music, and I'm soaking in my tub and the candles are lit, and I listen to old nostalgic music and I let whatever comes out, comes out. Right now there's a lot of crying, and I don't have shame around it. I don't judge it. It's moving the energy for me. And once I do that and I create the container for that, then it's out of my body and my energy changes. So look for ways that you can express how you're feeling.
Right. That's great. That's great advice, because right now, the most important thing is self-care, taking
Yeah,
care of yourself, because you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
yeah, yeah,
It's just like that's the most important thing. And right now, y- being grateful for everything is also something that's very important
yeah. And
right now.
it's hard to feel gratitude when we're in panic mode. So I think I was really thinking about this morning. Last week for us was March break or spring break, and so
Yeah.
luckily, I want to say luckily, it was a great adjustment period for a lot of people, because we kind of had that time anyway, and we're all a little bit freaked out, and we're all trying to like get our bearings, like, oh
Yes.
my God, what's happened? Okay, get groceries, get toilet paper, the kids are home, or my spouse is home, or I'm not working at the office anymore, or maybe I'm starting to work from home, like trying to get our bearings. But now this is the second weekend, and what's really, really important in times when there feels like there's chaos and disorder outside of our homes, because there's so much unpredictability, and that triggers our nervous system and we start to get really anxious. It's
Right.
important to create some form of predictability within our homes. And so I highly recommend, if you're feeling anxious and you're feeling all over the place, or you're feeling afraid, or whatever you're feeling, it's really important to create some rituals, because rituals create predictability, which create a feeling of safeness and security. And so they don't have to be super
Right.
strict, but I know even for myself, like last week was kind of loosey goosey, went to bed whenever, up whenever, did whatever, ate whenever, and that's okay. But this week I sat my kids down and we have a loosely structured day, and that sends a message to my vagus nerve, my system, that there's some predictability, there's some. So in the morning I have a specific thing, ritual that I do, and then I have a chunk of time where I'm working, and then after what most would consider lunch, I fast, but what most would consider lunch, I move my body in some way, if that's a walk, if that's working out, if that's dancing, if that's stretching, just in some way I tell myself, you
Right.
will move your body, because I know it's good for me. I know it creates this chemical cocktail of good feelings. And then after that, that's my bath time. That's my time to really, because by that point I've, I've, I've got some of the energy of the anxiety back. And so that's my bath time. And
Right.
then my family, as a family, we cook dinner together every single night and eat together. That's an important ritual, a marker for us. And then we
Yeah.
watch a family movie. And so loosely, I have structured ritual into my day. And so I'm inviting anyone who's watching this who feels
Yes.
thrown off. It doesn't have to be structured to a time. You don't have to, but create some ritual. Pick a couple of things that you know are going to support you, like physical movement, um, like something like reading, or connecting with a friend maybe every day, or a different friend. Find some ritual in your day, because that's going to send a message to your nervous system that there's some predictability. When outside feels chaotic, you can create some semblance of order in your life.
Right. Yeah. That's great. Great advice as well. And I've heard Other people speak about how it's important to have some sort of routine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, like you say, it was really all of this is such a loss of control. And we cannot control the outside world, what's happening with the whole virus and everything like that. Well, we can to the point of where we, stay at home and wash our hands and that kind of thing to stay safe. But we need to we need to concentrate on the things that we can control. Not worry, sorry, I don't want to use that word, worry.
Yeah.
Just concentrate on what we can control. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And um, remembering that 95% of our life every single day is run by habit. So it's the things that we consistently do over and over and over and over again. And it's not only habit of actions like getting up on the same side of the bed, brushing your teeth in the same order, walking downstairs, pouring coffee into your favorite mug, driving to work the same route. So there's habit of action, but there's also habit of thought. And so our thoughts are connected to our actions, right? So what we think is connected to what we do. And so that's why it's important to put a little bit of intention behind creating some structure into your day, because this is all science, and we have to go with what we know. And what the science tells us is that it's really, really difficult, to be moving your body, dancing or exercising or walking in the fresh air, and to feel really shitty. I mean, it's really hard to be focusing on love. I do a lot. One more thing I will say, I
yeah,
want to give you a couple of resources. So I interviewed one of my favorite people in the world. His name is David G. David J.I. David G. And he's on his website. He has some incredible guided meditations and visualizations. And why is this? If you've never done it before, even if you have, he's got a library of free resources. Why is this fundamental, especially right now? I'll tell you why. Because our bodies do not know the difference between what's really going on and our imagination. They can't tell the difference. That's why you can think a thought and your body will respond physically. That's why you could think about like fantasize, have like a fantasy about some hottie and your body like respond. You can fantasize about being on the beach and you can your whole body relax. You can fantasize about something scary happening and you start to sweat and get
you
anxious,
feel
right?
that, yeah,
Our body does not know the difference. And so now that we have this time in our hands, even if it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, drop into a visualization of your happy place, of the plate. The first thing you want to do when this is over, I have two visualizations that I are my go-to. One is always the beach, and one is being with people that I love. But I literally take myself there and I go through each one of my senses. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I touching? So I go through and I actually immerse myself, because in those 5 minutes, I am not in the future with all the worry and anxiety. I'm not in the past with the way things used to be and I wish I'm right here. And my whole body responds by calming down because it doesn't know the difference. It thinks I'm there. So if you need support with that, there's so many
right.
resources online. But visualization, daydreaming, imagination, I don't call it meditation because I think that's scary for a lot of people, but use your mind.
True.
It's very powerful, very powerful.
Right, and that's very important. The concept of being present and
Yeah,
staying in the present and not getting caught up into the future and worry, because if you do that, you can go into such a downward spiral.
yeah,
Only thing you can control right now is the present
yeah.
situation, and
And
that's
everyone
where to stay.
listening right now, like everything's just a series of present moments, right? Like if we're really present, we can't be like right now, wherever you are, whoever's watching this, listening to this, look around you. There are four walls. Okay. There are four walls. And in this moment right now, you're safe and all is well. In this present moment, just in this breath,
Right.
where you and I are right now, we are safe and all is well right now. There's no one banging on our door. There's no one
Yeah.
screaming at the top of their lungs. There's no bear chasing us right now. Like even just hand on heart, we are safe right now. All is well right in this moment. And if we can just breathe into this moment, um, everything is just a series of present moments. So worry and anxiety is the future. If you're worried and anxious, that's in the future. So if
Yeah.
you bring yourself back, just look at the four walls around you, hand on heart, breathe into this moment. Right now, you're okay. So however many times you can bring yourself right back to this present moment, um, know that you're okay right now, and everything is really just a series of those moments. So keep bringing yourself back to this.
Right. Right. That's a great practice for people to do, to keep you, you know,
Yeah,
keep you present, to get us through this. Yeah.
yeah,
That's why it's so nice that we see all the, like you say, so many free resources out there, so many people coming together, community coming
I
together,
love it. What you're
everybody
doing.
helping one another.
Yeah,
It's just
I.
great.
One last thing I have to
Yeah.
say is, we the old saying is that believing is seeing. So but the truth is that we see what we believe. And so what I keep bringing myself back to is how incredible people are. They're so innovative, they're so creative, they're so generous, they're so caring. All I see are people like you who are taking the initiative to create spaces, to reach out to one another, to check in. I know people are doing online exercise programs and
Yeah.
online singing lessons and guitar lessons for kids and homeschooling creative projects and cooking incredible things. I mean, these are outside of the context of the unknown and the fear. These are really exciting times to see people rise to the occasion. And so because that's what I believe, that's all I'm seeing, Michelle. Like we
Right.
have the reticular activating system, the RAS, is this little
Yes.
part in the back of our brain. And what it does is it sifts through literally billions of bits of information a second. Like we open our eyes, there's billions of bits of information. And our brain can't process billions of bits. It's pretty amazing, but it can't sort through that many. So what it does is it distills it like a funnel. It sifts through all of the input to our body. It sifts it through, and it decides what you're going to actually see and what gets thrown to the wayside. And the criteria that it uses to decide what you and I see is what we believe and what's important to us. Those two things, what we really believe and what's important to us. That's why I know when I was pregnant, suddenly I saw pregnant people everywhere. Like when I was looking to buy a certain car and I was researching the kind of car, I saw that freaking car everywhere. Like,
Yes.
you know how that happens? It's because our RAS is actually sifting through and it's picking things out. So right now, if you are focused on the chaos, the sickness, people being crazy, people acting crazy, that's all you're going to see because your brain is going to zone in on those things.
Right.
So it's really a practice of coming back and focusing on who's doing amazing things. And people like you, there's so many people in the community who are taking this opportunity to give and to serve. And that's all I see. That's all I see. That's all I choose to see. And
Right.
it's
Exactly.
not having my head in the sand. It's not being like uber positive, Pollyannish. Like I said, I have moments where I create space to feel what I'm feeling and to be scared and to cry.
Yeah.
And I also then move out of that and move into choice. And I think we all need to remember that we have choice and we have tools and we can do both.
Right, exactly. We have the choice. We have the choice on how we
Yeah,
want to see things. And
right.
it's not to say that you can't be fearful and not to judge
Yeah,
anybody. You have to acknowledge it and let it go through you and then have this
yeah,
choose to be present. Yes,
yeah. Choose to be present.
that's great. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Gina, for this. That was just great information to
Oh,
help us
my
through
pleasure.
this.
My
And
pleasure.
when I put this up on the into the group, I will put your information underneath, and I also want to share that interview that you did with David G.
Yeah, so I haven't edited. I have the full length interview with him, which is on my page, Gina,
Okay,
much woman. It's a 45. We had some technical glitches, so it's about 45 minutes, but there's a lot of good information if you. But I also have an edited version of just his guided meditation, which is a metta meditation. It's a loving kindness meditation. And so it's just, I think it's like 10 minutes or so. I also
Okay.
have that. So I can send you that link.
Yeah.
It really is, such a powerful tool. So big love to everybody, and we will get through this together. Reach out anytime. Thanks again,
Yes,
Michele.
we will. Thank you so much, Gina, and bye for now, everybody.
Bye.